Guys, it's me. So I figured that this could be either easier or harder. I was sent the age 14. So I'm gonna lay here and see if it's easier for me to talk about these things when it's dark. By the time I was 14, I have already been introduced to heroin, injecting it, and by the time I was 14, I was addicted. I hung out with much older people than I was. Pretty much more hard people with huge addiction problems. And I just love the lifestyle of. I thought that this was gonna be like cool, that I was hanging out with older people that broke the law, and I was just a kid, actual kid. I was just a kid. I should have been playing with, Barbies. Maybe not Barbies, but you know what I'm saying. So I'll just quickly state how I became addicted to heroin. At the age of 13, one of my good friends, parent, introduced me to heroin. She shot me up with a used needle. And at that moment, I knew that wasn't going to be the only time I used it. I loved it. I loved the rush. I loved the warmth. I loved the feeling of throwing up. I loved how my mind just escaped me. It's like everything changed. I was warm and okay. So back to 14. By the time I was 14, I was strung out. Probably not as strung out as the older people that I was around. But for a 14-year-old, I was definitely using on a daily basis. And I started doing drugs IV from the beginning. So at 14, I was drinking very heavily, hanging out with friends at another friend's house in Jacksonville, Oregon. We drank a lot. We partied. It was like a party house. I would ride my horse to her house, and then ride my horse home, drunk. My friend didn't know that I was doing heroin. She had no idea. She just smoked pot and drank a lot. She loved to give blowjobs. She would gurgle like, I got cum in my throat, she'd say. It's just like, you're so gross. But anyways, so at 14, I was pretty strung out. I was very early going to school at this point. I would go to school, and then I might have gone to 2 classes, and then I would bounce out of there, and we'd all go eat potato wedges or whatever at Pappy's Pizza. And then, you know, once our parents or whatever went to work, then we go to our houses and watch MTV because it came out then. We would watch videos and party at home. I don't remember ever getting in trouble for my attendance. I very seldom at this point went home, and when I did go home, I ran away a lot. I was on a pretty good, I was probably about a half gram a day, in my 14s, at the, the later part of 14. I was shooting up in my boobs and in my legs, because I didn't want anybody to know. I know one time that I ran away and I was downtown Medford across from Rackham. There was a little parking lot there, and that was the first time that I sold my ass, basically, for drugs. So this guy picked me up, and he took me to his house over on Jackson Street, across from Angela's Pizza. There's a gas station, and then the house next door to that was his house. And I was, again, 14, pretty close to 15, I think. And this guy was probably in his 50s. I remember him wanting to do things to me before I got the drug. And then I didn't want to. I wanted the drug first. But he wouldn't. He threw me on my stomach and repeatedly fucked me in the ass. I remember after he was done, just remember looking at him thinking, ew, you're so gross. And I was getting dressed, and he threw the drugs at me and told me to go. So I didn't even put my shoes on. I grabbed the drugs and I left to the gas station on the corner and used their bathroom to clean up. I remember that my butt hurt so bad. And I had to poo so bad. So I sat on the toilet and started the routine about using heroin. And I remember that was the first time that I did it in my arm by myself. And I did it, and I just sat in there and cried, probably for a while. It was very cold out. I remember it was so cold. So I just stayed in there. And then somebody needed to use the bathroom, so that I had to go. So I don't remember where I went after that. I just know that I hated myself for that. I hated it. But it was an easy way of getting it. And I hated myself anyway, so it didn't matter, I guess. Later on, in that year of of brandy. Stopped riding my horses. I stopped taking care of them. Very rarely was I going home. Very, very rarely. I was doing a lot of drugs, not just heroin. I was doing mushrooms and acid and alcohol and pot and LSD, and I just was doing Dilaudid. Anything I could get my hands on. I do remember one time frying on acid with my friend. And we we went and picked flowers out of people's yards, and then we went to my sister's house, and she had a washer and dryer in her shed outside of her backyard. So we went in there and turned on the dryer because it was warm. And when we woke up, all these flowers were just like everywhere. We're just like, shit, my sister's gonna kill me. So we picked them up and tried to get rid of them, and it didn't work. She caught me and told me to go away. She didn't. I babysat for her occasionally. She never really liked me that much. I was just the bratty piece of shit sister, you know. 14. I was going to a lot of dance places under 18, dance halls and stuff like that. I was running drugs for some of the older people I knew. I was taking and doing favors for people who ran stuff into the prisons and stuff like that. What else? Heroin ruined my life from a very early. I often wonder, though, if I never did heroin, would I be as smart as I am? Or would I be the person I am today? Or how my life would have been if that one person never shot me up? I wonder. Anyways, so this was just a piece of my 14th year. If you go ahead and send me a message, and tell me which age you'd like me to jump to, any age, doesn't have to go in order. I kind of like doing this in the dark because it makes it more comfortable for me to talk about. I'm gonna go to bed to work tomorrow. If you like and subscribe to my channel, I would love it. But you don't have to, because it's not all about that for me. Anyways, fuck heroin.